Happy Friday. Welcome to our Friday beading class, and thank you for being here. It's good to see you guys. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. And today's class is it's like a bunch of stuff together. It's a mix of two really fun techniques with a bonus variation that you can try for assembling the final piece. So for step one of the design, we're going to create these little components that hold the crystals. And I'll show you really a detailed view on the mat how to do that. But it's really fun because you kind of create your own finding. And it's a crystal finding. And so that just makes it even more awesome. And then you can take two different approaches to assembling a bracelet. It's right angle weave, which you can do a 1 needle stitch method. You could also do a 2 needle stitch method. And that 2 needle stitch method is illustrated in the handout as a wire stringing method. So you could also take beading wire and complete the right angle weave in a 2 needle fashion with the beading wire. It's kind of a tongue twister, but yeah, it's possible. And so whatever medium you prefer to work in, you can pick up that medium and make it work for this design. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how it's constructed step by step. And what you're seeing here on the mat are a bunch of versions that I've done in various stages of finish so that I can show you finishing on both styles. The one that you're seeing here and here in the blue and the pink in the middle are stitched with beading thread. So I put those on, in this case it was frost, but today I'll work with the color you can see a little better. I was going to work with the black color today. And this is the Hawaii mix, and this one is the sea mix. So two different mixes going there. And this again is bead woven with a single needle method. But then these are on beading wire. And this one's not finished yet, so I can show you how to finish it, but it's very cool. You can just take beading wire and start doing the right angle weave in kind of like a 2 needle fashion to just bring it all together. Both methods will give you a beautiful bracelet, and they're almost impossible to discern from each other, to be honest, because it doesn't add any length from what I can show you here. It just has mostly the same look. So it's really just, what do you like to use? What's your preference? I'm a needle and thread person myself, so I'd probably go with that first, but others might choose that beading wire method. And so here's one also that I finished that is on beading wire. And so it just comes out so cool. So first I'm going to show you how to make the little component in there, which is really easy. And if you follow the steps, it's going to come out flawless every time and be really uniform, which is helpful for getting a bracelet to stack up like that and to look really, really polished and finished when you're done. So I'm just going to slide these out of the way, and I'm going to show you my materials. Everything I'm going to show you is in the handout. The colorway that is highlighted in the handout is this one. It's the deep sea with just a crystal, 8mm, and 11/0 in a silver lined aqua. And so those beads are these right here. And then the crystals are just a white crystal, like not with an AB finish. I just went with like a plain, like matted, not matted, but like not with an AB 8mm Czech crystal. And then the other colorway, if you're loving that one's not in the handout because I just came up with it, but it's the Hawaii mix. Just this one right here, 6/0. And then I grabbed some 11/0 gray. And this is one of the colors from the new wall. And it's not one that I've actually used yet, so it's a really cool one. And those together looked very neat. And I combined those in the first design with some pink crystal. And again, this is 8mm Czech crystals. You can use any color you want, and any tubes of beads are going to work. Just those, you want to stick with a 6/0 and an 11/0, and you got it. So for today, we were thinking, I hope you will love it, the coolest colorway ever. We were going to go with a bright pop because I want you to be able to see really clearly all the steps. So some nice AB red. It's like a cyan, I think. Again, still 8mm. And then we're going to go with some Terra Intensive rose and some of the, I believe this is Santa Fe blue. All right, and Sharon, don't worry, you're not late. You didn't miss anything. We're just going through materials, and that's all in here. You can check out in the handouts. So I'm going to dive in with making the component. So first, you're going to want to have a tape measure or a ruler, and you're going to want to measure out 1 3/4 for your wire. And oh, and I apologize, I did not show you wire yet, but 22 gauge German style is a good go-to for this project. And that's what I'm using today. And I'm going to be using some flush cutters, and I'm going to be using some round stepped bail making pliers. And I'm going to be using just the smallest 2mm round on it. And most, I checked it out, and most of the step bail making pliers, like all the brands, tend to have the same sizing. That's what I've noticed. So you should be good working with the smallest one. If you want to double check if it's 2mm, you can use like a caliper and just see, but should look around, roughly like that. Somewhere between the two there should be close enough, because it doesn't need to be exact. All right, so I'm going to measure out, and of course for your design, you're probably going to want at least 5, maybe 6, or even 7 of these findings to complete your bracelet. So what I like to do is I will start by measuring out one. So I've got this one at 1 3/4, 1.75 inches. And then I'll do the others with the first one. So I'll just use the first one to measure. Saves me having to get that tape measure out, because it's a little harder to get that to work. Inlay flat and everything. With this, it just curves right along and you get a match. The only fun part is finding the end and the coil here. There we go. So I'm just going to cut, I'll go ahead and cut 6 of them. And there's this one. I believe that was my 5th one. And now number 6. Okay. So once you've got your findings or your wires, well, you can start making the findings, but there's, again, these are about 1 3/4 on length, and they're 22 gauge. And I am using German style wire. Okay, so getting those pliers going. Again, I'm just working with the smallest step on the bail making plier. I'm gonna find my edge. And what I like to do is I like to make sure it's flush. I'll run my finger over here. If you can feel it, but it's not poking up, meaning you can push down without getting poked, but you can still feel it, you've got it flush. And so that's our goal, is to have it flush in the tool. And then going around the 2mm side of the plier, I'm just going to keep going. And you'll get to a spot where you're stuck like that, where it won't go anymore. And at that point, go ahead and just move the wire so you can keep coiling in the forward direction. So I just keep doing it like that. And now you'll start to notice that the little tiny tail of that is starting to appear again, because it's coming all the way around. My goal is to get it to join with the main here. So I'll just keep going, and you can kind of press it down until it joins with the main. So see how it's kind of almost reached this wire here. I think I just need to go 1 little inch further and get it to be right about there. All right, so once you've got that, go ahead and just kind of, I sometimes will reposition it in the back, just so it's kind of facing toward the other side. And I'll just bend it just a tiny bit that way. And that is to give it a centered position over the coil. So that little back bend just make it sit so that the circle is centered underneath the long piece, instead of what would be a P shape if we didn't do that last little nudge. So, and a P shape would work, but this always looks a little better. So you should have 2 coils, kind of like that, with it centered. And we'll do this again, so don't worry. I'm going to get my crystal out. I usually do this kind of like a little bit of, I'll do all the cutting at the same time, but then I'll finish each finding kind of on its own. But you can do it any order you'd like. Once you've got your crystal on there, what I do is I just kind of hold it as tight as I can, and then I'll bend the wire down. And one of the things I'm trying to do is to get that bend to be above the coil right here. And if you want, this is optional, if you've got a pointy side, when you're working with flush cutters, the side you cut will be flat, flush, and the side that's on the other end might be pointy. So you can always just do a very small little trim to get that flat. It's not, it's a knit, but if you're noticing that and you want to do it, that's usually what I do. So I'm going to take these bail making pliers again, and still working with the smallest step on there. Same thing again, I'm going to go for that flush. Try to get it to be so where I can feel it, but it's not poking me if I push down. So right about there. And let's roll it forward. And it'll get somewhere to like right about here. Make sure you're kind of encouraging it to go to one of the sides. It doesn't matter which side, but you want to encourage it to start to coil. So get it to go either to the left or to the right. And just keep rolling it forward. And you'll reach a point where you can't coil it anymore. And you're done. And I did a really tight job on this one. There we go. So there's one component all set. It's ready to go. And let's do that again. I've got the flush side here. I'm going to bring that into the pliers there. And I'm going to roll around the smallest step. When I reach this spot, readjust the pliers so I can keep going. Keep rolling. Okay. And I'm going to just flatten that a little bit more. And I'm going to take it off the pliers really quick so I can show you what I mean by the P shape. See how it looks like a P shape right now? It is easier to get it to look really nice centered on the bead if you go ahead and put the pliers back in. And then here's a top view. You just want to kind of bend this way just a little bit. Just like, maybe just like that much. Just to get it to kind of center so that our loop is hanging centered like that. And it just looks really nice if you do it that way. And so we'll get another crystal. Bring that down. And bend the wire in this direction that way. So we're going for that. If necessary to trim a little tiny bit, go ahead. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing again. We're going to grab the end of the wire, flush inside the pliers, and just trying to keep it in plane with the coil below and start rolling forward. Until it meets the top of the crystal, and it just won't let you coil anymore. You got it. And I always do a really good job making it really tight on the pliers. So I got to kind of wiggle it free. But the cool thing about doing it this way, if you've got all pre-measured coils and you're doing everything the same, you'll get matched findings. They look like a machine made them almost. And that's the trick to consistency with that kind of step. Let's do a few more. Just gonna roll it forward. And there was a step here that I forgot to mention that I just kind of do it without thinking about it. See how I'm flattening the end of that tail down? This is really your only chance to do that. So go ahead and do that here. Because once it's close up here, it's harder to do because the other wire blocks you from being able to access it. And then I usually just keep it on the tool and I'll just bring this side up a little bit and then just push like that to get my center. So I just do it all in one swoop. And you'll get a fast hand way of doing it too as you start working on it. And then just get on the crystal there. I'm gonna flip it to face me. And then just bend that wire. So you get this little shape right here. And this side might already be flush, but I'll go ahead and Just make sure. All right. And I got it off center a little bit. See how it's like that? That's okay. You can fix it at the end, but if you want to fix it now, just kind of give it a little bit of a nudge over so that it's as close as we can get it to being in the same direction as our coil. And it's not the end of the world, but you can fix it at the end, but it does help with when you're stitching it for sure and assembling. So again, I'm just rolling it forward. Taking a chance here to flatten that tail down, see? And keep going. And it stayed in plane, which is nice. If for some reason it didn't, you can get a pair of round nose pliers and you can straighten it out with the round nose pliers. The one thing I wouldn't recommend doing is taking flatter chain nose and trying to smoosh them like this to adjust them, because sometimes it can make your coils collapse, and they do look a lot prettier stitched if they're in plane and not smooshed. All right, I've only got 2 more to go. I'll probably just do 1 more and then check in, because I'm right at where I thought I'd be when we finish this step. Right at about the 20-minute mark here. I want to be able to show you guys all the assembly in really good detail. So I'm just really quickly coiling this one up. Gonna flatten that out a little bit. There's our centered little coil there. And just gonna bend this back towards myself. It wants to spin on me today. There we go. So just like that. And let's coil forward. Oh, good. Okay, I've got one I can show you that's a little off. See how they're not exactly. I'm going to grab some round nose pliers. So just some regular round nose. If you have a second set of bills, those are great too, but I'm going to grab one side like that. And then get this one here. And just straighten them out best you can. And that's going to work out fine. All right, I'm going to stop there and let's go ahead and do the stitching assembly first. So where I am in the handout, let me show you really quick, is we just finished making all of our little components. All those steps are summarized here for you, including all the measurements that we've been using. So you don't have to memorize those. And now I'm just going to do some really basic right angle weave. It's a 4 segments. So it's got 411 and 460. And then as with right angle weave, you always kind of share the former bead, whichever one is your center. Our center is going to be the 60 beads. And we'll make, what I did on mine is I made 3 segments. And then I started adding the main interest element. And then from there and after, I would do 2 segments. And each of these is sharing a component for its big beads here. And then when you get up to this part and you end the bracelet, you just repeat with 3 more regular right angle weave repeats. So that's what I've been doing for that. And what you're seeing here is the beading wire version. I'll also show you how to do that. So right now we're just going to work the stitching version. Okay, so let's get some Wildfire. And if you're wanting to do, say, like a 7-inch bracelet, you're probably going to want to cut about 60 to 70 inches or so, even a little more if you want to have a little extra. I've been leaving only a 7-inch tail because the way this is finished actually is super easy. You don't have to do a stitched finish on it. We're just going to pop a jump ring into our 6OC bead, which is really cool and easy to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab a beading needle over here. I'm using a size 11. And the handout has all the info on my needle sizes and thread sizes as well. Okay, and I just usually fold over a small amount. That's probably about 8 inches or so. And I'm working with a single strand. And then the length of thread that I cut again is about 60 to 70 inches. If you'd like to make a bracelet that has similar length to what I'm showing you here, you probably want at least 70 inches, and a little more can't hurt because it'll give you extra for weaving in. And I like to leave a 7-inch tail when I start my first stitch. Okay, so I'm going to be using this beautiful color here and this one. And so because we are doing a base 6-0 right angle weave, which means that the shared bead, the one we're going to join to the other segments, is going to be the 6-0 as it's joined. So we're going to start stringing the 6-0 first, and then the 11-0, and repeat that until we have 4 of each. And I like to go around and reinforce that first one so it doesn't get all loose while I'm stitching. And so I'm just bringing these bright colors on so we can really see what I'm doing. And over here, I've got my beads on a mat. Okay. So I'm going to pick up 1 6-0 bead and 1 11-0 bead. I'm going to do that 4 times. Here's 2 and 3 and 4. So you want to go 4. Nice and bright, easy to see. I like that. Okay, slide it down again so you'll have about 7 inches left on your strand. And then go back through the first 6-0 bead that you strung. And pull that through. And tighten. And I always love the look of a mixing up sizes in right angle weave gives you the coolest looking, these little repeats, these little kernels or segments. They're so cute. So this will end up being the bottom, and this will end up being where we start adding. So let's go through one side. And see how it's loosening up on me a lot? I'm going to go around one more time just to make sure that everything stays tight. And the first segment will do that a lot more than the subsequent ones, but you're welcome to reinforce all of them if you like. I kind of do it as needed. But so there I've gone through an entire circle again. And now it's not going to loosen up on me. And so what I want to do now is just travel to exit from that bead. And just go through 3 more, sorry. And then continuing on through the first 6-0 bead here. All right. Sorry, I keep going off camera there. So that's the first segment. And so we just need to repeat this 2 more times. And when I repeat them, I need to share one of those 6-0s. So I'm only going to need 3 6-0s, but I'll still need 4 11-0s. And so how that looks is you'll pick up 1 11-0 bead, another 6-0, and do that one more time here. So there's 2. And there's 3. And go ahead and grab 1 more 11-0. So there's 3 6-0 and 4 of the 11-0s. And there's our 4th 6-0 right here. We're going to go right back through it. So you always have 4, it's just you're sharing one. And you're headed back through that bead in the opposite direction of the way the thread's coming out. And that's all there is to it. That's the whole stitch. So I'm going to just repeat that a few times. I'm going to go around and up through here. And that'll put us right here. And you could, if you want, you can go around and reinforce. I'm going to skip that just for the interest of time. But I think if I was working this on my own as a finished piece, I might go ahead and go back through it one more time, just to make it nice and tight. But I really just want to show you guys the general idea here. Okay, so again, same thing as before. We got 3, and each is spaced with 1, so we got 4 11-0, 3 6-0. This time we're going to go right back. Yeah, and Cindy's saying she reinforces her right angle weave. I do too, Cindy. I do. I'm fighting the urge to do that now and make you guys watch me do trips around in the beads. But yeah, and one of the things that reinforcing does is it actually it makes these segments stay more in a line, right? Otherwise, they tend to whisper left or right, depending on the direction you doubled through. Because keep in mind, as we're going through this bead right here, we're going through this side twice and this side only once. It creates a whisper, like it kind of remembers which direction, but that is going to happen a lot less if you reinforce. Okay, but here's where I'm at now. And I'm going to go ahead and start and add the crystal. So, and actually, I think on my originals, I added the crystal from this segment, but I was chatting, and so I made an extra segment. You can make as many of these segments as you like. It's pretty much the same steps. But now I'm going to start integrating the components we just made. So I've got just 211 and 160. Start with that. And then go ahead and grab one of the ones you made and just string it right through the wire. Slide that down. And you'll need another set of 11-0, 160, and an 11-0. And slide that down. And let me show you on the mat what it looks like currently. So we're going to go in a little circle around like this and back through that 60 there. So what's happened here is we still have our 60s on the side. We still have the one we're sharing from the first or the last one that we stitched. And now the new 60 that's going to be topside, it's actually our component. So that coil is taking the place of one of our 60s. And it's going to look like that. It should sit right there like that for you. And it'll be a little bit loose, don't worry. If you want to reinforce this one, it's a good idea because this one is going to be supporting the weight of that crystal. So I may do that for this one, which looks like this. You just go all the way through all those beads. Keep going. And when you get to this one right here, go ahead and just go through that first 11-0. And then go through the coil. But don't go through the other 11-0 that's on the other side. See, I kind of went through it by accident. Avoid going through that one and just go through the coil only. So you're going to go through the 11-0 on this side and the coil. And just think of that coil as your 6-0 seed bead, just like we were doing back here. It's just this coil is now that bead. Now the fun part. And this is where you can adapt other bead sizes. I want to make sure I highlight that. I figured out that a repeat of 460, each one spaced with an 11-0, was the great size for an 8mm crystal. But if you wanted to do a 6mm or a 12mm or anything, really, this is the sky's the limit. You can just test it. And I'll show you how I figured it out when I did this one really quick here. Okay, so I already know this is the count that's going to work for this bead because I've been playing with it. But if I didn't know or I wasn't sure, I could figure it out by just bringing the beads on and then just kind of pinching them tightly like they would appear stitched, and then just fold it around and see what looks good. And if I was using a different bead, then yeah, and Marguerite, the 11-0s in the coil there, you just got to kind of watch for them. That does happen on mine too. But it doesn't detract from the beauty of it after you got it all stitched up. So yeah, this is how you figure out. I know this is the counts we want for this bead, but if you didn't want to use an 8mm, that's how you test it. Bring that through. And you'll get one side done. So let's repeat that same count. I'm going to do an 11-0 and then a 6-0, and do that 4 times. There's 2 and 3, 4 plus 1 11-0. And again, I'm going to bring that through the bottom coil here. And this time I'm going to be really careful to avoid the 11-0s that are part of this chrome. So I'm going to just go through the coil and avoiding this one here. I don't know if you guys can see that one right there. I'm avoiding that one and I'm avoiding that one, but I'm heading right through this one. That's where I want to go. And it just hugs that crystal so beautifully. It's so easy to do. Once you get going, you'll be like breezing through this. And it's pretty quick too. So now I'm traveling. I'm just traveling up through the beads right now just to get to the top. And I'm going to go through all of the beads on one side, including the 11-0 here. There's another 11-0 hiding right there. Can you see it? It's in there. I'm not going through that one. That one will bring itself over to this side once I tighten everything. Pull tight. And now I'm going to go through the coil. And again, I'm going to pull tight. And so the 11-0s, I want to share what Marguerite was saying in the chat, because it's absolutely correct. Your 11-0s are going to hide in the coil. They're going to look like that. And when it's final in its stitched configuration and it's all done, they're both going to kind of sit together in this way. Because the way that it's constructed, let me show you on a finished one really quick. One that's on thread. Okay, so this one's on thread here. See, they hide in there. It's a good example as it's going along, but it will just automatically center itself. And so it's more confidence building if they wouldn't do that. I agree 100%. I couldn't quite figure out a way to solve it. I tried a bunch of different things, but I liked the 11-0 so much that I decided not to swap them. I tried 8-0 because your 8-0s would truly stay outside the coils, and it just didn't look as good. It didn't look as cute because having those beads hiding in the coil actually doesn't take away from the look when it's finished. It just makes it harder when you're stitching it. In fact, I think it kind of is additive to the beauty of it, because it makes it truly look like it's all just beads going through. And the tighter your stitches and less thread showing, the more like stunning that is going to look. See, like you can see it right there. It just looks like the beads and the metal are one. So I thought that was cool. But that said, the 8-0 did work. It just has a totally different look, and you can totally try that. So let's do some more kernels. Let's add another one of these beads, and then it's going to put us right up at where I'll show you a quick demo of the beading wire. I also want to show you weaving in and finishing too. So lots of stuff. Right now, what I'm going to put on my needle is the first of one of the normal little segments. So we're going to need 3 of the 6-0s and 4 of those 11-0s again. And then we're just going to bring this through just the coil. So none of those 11-0s. We just want to go only through the coil there. Sorry about that. It popped right out there. So just the coil. And pull that tight. And then I'm going to go through the beads. Oh, did I miss a bead, guys? Oh, no, I didn't. It's there, just hiding on me. And feel free to reinforce that. And if you reinforce it, just go around one more time. But you want to aim to exit from this top one. And let me show you in the picture just in case it helps anybody out to see what I'm doing there. But so take a look at how we did this here with the coil. So now we've just did this. So it looks a little bit like it's missing a bead, but that's just because this is the other bead. And now we're just going to create another segment here where its top bead is the next crystal. So it'll look like this. We'll go 11-0, 6-0, 11-0. So just like that. Grab our next crystal, bring that on, and then string another 11-0, 6-0, 11-0 combo there. So one more of those. And then just taking a look at the direction we're headed out of. So we're headed out of the bead here. So we're going to go around in a circle and through it that way. And it'll sit just like that for you. And travel through. I'm going to go around all the beads again. I think this is pretty easy. The only tricky part is just trying to get through the right beads, because they do tend to kind of hide themselves under that coil a little bit. So from here, I just want to make sure I go through my right hand side 11-0 and the coil only. So just those. Skipping that 11-0 because that one belongs over here. And then again, we're just going to go around it. Make it really pretty. So we need the 4 6-0s now. In each of those, we're going to start with an 11-0 and end with an 11-0. Through one side. My 11-0 just went right through. That's okay. I'm going to let it do that. I need another 11-0, another 6-0, and then keep going till I have 4. Plus one more 11-0 at the end. And back through the coil here. And if you can, in one swoop, you can start going through the beads on the other side that make up this side of the decoration. And if it does this to you, don't worry, keep going. And it should pop right into place for you. So from here, I just need to keep going through these beads. And when you get to the top, just remember that this coil is another 6-0 seed bead, and our 6-0s are lead. So we're going to go through just the 11-0, the first one here, and then get through just the coil. And from there, it's a repeat of everything we've done. And it should, as you go, as you keep going, should just get prettier and prettier as you stitch. So here's one that's already done. And it is a repeat that has, let me get that centered for you, sorry about that, a total of 6 beads on it. And so, it takes a minute to get done, but it really goes pretty fast. I did an extra repeat here. So, and that was just an accident, sorry about that. But you can do as many as you want to start. And when you get up to right here, you just weave in both ends and we'll pop a clasp on it really quick. So to weave in, all you do is just go back through some beads. It's a chance to reinforce stuff. So just keep going, zipping around. Try to follow the existing structure. So for example, in right angle weave, you can't really cross your angles. So notice I'm going kind of zigzagging through it because I'm just keeping with the convention that is already there. Now it's going to travel around this way. And then if you want to, I usually don't knot. Truthfully, I just keep going. And it does take a little bit of time, but that's just kind of my way of finishing work. A lot of folks would do a 1/2 inch knot, and that's okay too. And I'll show you that as soon as I find the right 11-0 here. There we go. It can be a little tricky to see under those coils, but it is possible. If you get a magnifier, sometimes it helps. Honestly, sometimes I turn on the camera because on my big screen, it's easier for me to see it with my eyes. So I'll come up here and plug in and just look at it for a second. But let me show you a good place to do a 1/2 inch knot. So the knots are going to sway your work if you do them in the wrong spot. They're going to make them look a little bit lopsided in one direction or the other, depending on which side you pulled. But a good place to do one, if you're going to, is at a center point, any center point along the stitching. So by center point, I mean any of the ones that are in the middle here, because then it's not going to pull one side or the other. So right now where I am is I'm going to head up through. After I trim it, I'm going to head up through that bead. So let's do it right here. I'm going to do my knot right next to the coil, but behind the 11-0 that I just came out of. So you won't be able to see it, but you can get under it, get under a thread bridge here. And it helps if you can just move that 11-0 out of the way. Until I usually don't do this because I'm struggling with it a little bit. And make sure that 11-0 sits on the other side from where I'm trying to do my knot. And then come back through that loop. That I didn't pull it all the way through. Just want to come right back through it. And again, I'm still going to focus really hard on making sure it doesn't go in front of my 11-0. I want it right next to the coil because then it'll hide in there. There we go. Okay. So you see how it kind of disappeared in there and it's right in front of that 11-0. It's really hard to see, but that's one place you could do a knot. And then go ahead and go through that 11-0. And it can't really go through the bead because the knots are too, oops. One there. I picked up the needle for my sample. Sorry, guys. That was the wrong one. Okay. There we go. And now I'm just going to trim it. I feel like that's good. You could keep going if you wanted to, but that in a nutshell is how you do weaving in and or knotting. So I'm going to grab some pliers really quick and I'm going to show you putting the jump ring and the clasping on that side. And this method is for the stitched version. The other version has a slightly different clasping method. And here are some pliers. I've got a 6mm jump ring right here. And I've got one of these clasps that is 9, I believe it's 15 by 9mm. And I went with the stainless because I think this looks really pretty next to the Hawaii mix hematite. It also looked really good in the C mix. So this is the one I used on both samples. And again, these are 6mm stainless jump rings as well. Okay, let's open one side. So just like that, you want to give it kind of a wide open, and that was a lateral motion to get that open. It should fit beautifully right into your 6/0 seed bead without any fuss. It should be pretty good. And what I did on my originals over here is I just went direct to the clasp, but if you wanted to add length, you could add more jump rings if you want to. And the bent nose pliers are nice because you can use those to close. They get in there really easily. There we go. So super, super easy to get those nice and attached. You would just do the same thing on this side, but on this side, you just want to put a bunch of jump rings and link them together. And you can make that chain as long as you want, and it would be adjustable then. And so that's all you got to do for this version. The beading wire version is the same counts and the same type of stitch, but it takes a little bit different approach to get through. And so I'm going to grab a little bit of beading wire. First, let me, almost lost one of my little crystals there. Oh, well, I think we can demo it with just one. How it looks when it is in progress. Let me bring this down for you. It's going to be going like this through the beads, right? Just dancing through it. I started it like this. So let me show you starting it. We'll do a few of the stitches together, and then I'll show you finishing it on this one. For your beading wire. Now, I think someone was asking a question about my notes here. So I was actually in progress figuring it out. I originally made it too short. You want to have at least 30 inches if you're going for a 7-inch bracelet. For beading wire, anything could really work. You want to stay on the fine side because keep in mind you're going through an 11/0 seed bead. So you want to be under 0.018, or otherwise you'll see it notated as fine. Very fine would also work, but I wonder if very fine might even be a little too floppy or flimsy. I think the sweet spot is fine. It's a fine beading wire. So something between 0.015 or 0.018. It's going to be great. Stick with a higher strand count. I would stay at least at 19 strands or 49 strands, 21 strands. A 7-strand might not be flexible enough, although I say that having not tried it myself. So if you want to try 7-strand beading wire, I can't tell you it won't work. I just have a feeling you're going to have an easier time with a higher strand count. I am using 49 strand, but one of my samples was done on 19. Oh, actually, I could show you that. You might find that interesting. Okay. So this one was done on 19 strand. And you can see it worked. It worked. But one of the things you might also notice is that it's kind of like doing that a little bit on the sides. Here's 49 strand. When I made this one, I went ahead and went up. Don't know, I did nothing different in construction. I did the exact same steps. I didn't change anything. My tension was probably the same, it's the same hand. A little different, 1949. These are both done on a 0.015, I believe. Or it was, for me, it was labeled as fine. Yeah, so the way to do it is so easy and so cool. You will want to start with a crimp and a clasp. So let me grab that really quick. So I've got my clasp ready. And I've got my crimp ready. And of course, cut that length that you need. I probably made mine a little too long here. Just gonna bring that down. You'll want some flush cutters to cut your wire. There's that. Got mine ready here. So string your clasp on. And it's nice and heavy. That's why this is such a great way to start it. And then I just bring my ends together. And just hold it and pull all the way to the bottom so that my clasp is at my midpoint, the bottom of my beading wire there. And then go ahead and bring both of these ends through a 2x2 crimp tube. And it'll probably try to only go on one. You're gonna have to kind of force it a little bit, but it is doable. You just gotta kind of work it through. So just like that. Slide it down. Leave some air so that your clasp can move around. I usually try to go with at least a 4 or even 5 millimeter loop so that my clasp can wiggle. And then hang on one sec. Crimping pliers are always good. All right, and so in crimps, there's a back and a front part of the tool, and the back part is going to turn it into a U shape like that. The front part's going to close the U shape on top of itself, like a little sandwich, like you're making a little panini or something. So how you do it is I like to settle my crimp tube into the open part of that U shape first. So I'll just bring it down like that, and then go ahead and compress it. You can see it's forming that little U. So you get that little U shape like right there. And then using the front part of the pliers, just want to bring it in like that. And then just go ahead and compress it. And be super gentle about it. You don't need to go crazy. I remember Meredith telling me, Meredith from Bead was saying that if you over crimp, you could actually break your beading wire. So, you know, it doesn't make it stronger. It actually weakens your work if you go too crazy. So get it just like that. And that's how I started it. And then you're just going to start creating your segments. And so to do that, on one side, you want to string 11-0, 6-0, 11-0. Repeat that on the other side. Okay, so just like that. And then grab a 6-0 and bring the other wire through it in this direction so that they're crossing each other in there. And pull tight. And so what you'll get is something that looks like this. And what I did on mine, I want to share a quick little tip of what I thought looked good. Oh, actually, let me take that apart. I tried something additional here. You could do what I just showed you, but this is actually what I did. And I remember why I did it this way now, so that it would match the finish, because the way we have to finish it is going to look like that. Okay. Apologies, guys. I'm going to just pull this off really quick. So starting back from where I had the crimp there. You're going through my original thought process with me again, because I forgot my original thought process. There's a method to the madness, though. Okay, so got the crimp on there. And this is just so the ends match. Does it matter? Probably not. But, you know, perfectionist that I am. So what I did is one 6-0 seed bead, and then I brought the other end through. If I can get those to cross together there. Okay, and why I did that, all that craziness. Oops, that's the other beading wire. Was just so it would match the way that I'm going to finish it. Okay. So leave a little bit of room so that it kind of what I did is I just pulled them together and then I took each of these and went this direction just to kind of make them stay like that, right? So it looks really cute. Let me show you on this one. And once we get the next segment on there, it'll hold it steady a lot better. Okay, so from here, now we're doing 111, 160, and 111, and do that on each side. Oops. It jumped off. Oh no, that's another one. Okay. There's that. And same thing here. Okay, so on each side you'll have, and that just looks cleaner, doesn't it? I think it looks better. I like this one. You could try both ways. Honestly, they both work, but I like this one. And then get another 6 seed bead. Bring that through. There we go. And pull that down. Okay. And so do you see how this is working? We're going to follow the same counts in the same steps. Unfortunately, we're at about the 53-minute mark, so I don't have time to go through the whole thing. I wish I did. But here's how it looks in a nutshell. And I think finishing it is the part that you guys really want to see, because I think that from here what you can see is that from here you would string these two. It would basically be a repeat of what we did with the thread, except for you don't have to do all those trips around. Now you're just coming out one side, crossing, crossing, crossing. Goes pretty quick. It's really fast. So finishing it, we're going to need to bring the wires together again through a crimp. So from here, you just keep going. And what you would get is you'd get right up to here where you finish your last little segment. As you can see there, is still pretty loose because I've not finished it at all yet. And now I need another crimp tube. Let me get one of those. And I'm going to grab a jump ring out of my Clasp little containers here. And you can feel free to make a chain with your jump rings too. Sorry, I'm off camera. There we go. So we need a crimp and a jump ring. And so what I did is I took both of these ends, and you'll see this is going to match the start. Bringing these two through like that. Bring it down. And same thing here, I'm going to leave the same little amount of air that I left there. So this does add a little bit of length. Finishing it with beading wire will give you extra length from your stitched version when you add the clasp. So, right about there is pretty good. And don't crimp it yet. Come up here, and on one of your wires, put on a 6mm jump ring or whatever component you're using. It could be a toggle ring or toggle bar. And bring that down. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the side that has the ring put on it and feed it back through the crimp. And this is another reason fine beading wire is the way to go, because it can go 3 trips through those 2x2 crimps. So again, 0.015, 0.018. Okay. And now we've got a figure 8 or a little bow. And I'm just going to make everything nice and lined up as best as I can. If you start losing this, you can fix it now. Go ahead and just grab these two ends, tighten that up right there. And then go ahead and bring that all through like that. Just get it to where you're happy with it. And once you've got it where you like it, we can do a crimp. I did play with it for quite a long time when I was finishing my other one, because I'm wanting it to be exactly as I like it. But I think right about there is going to do. I'm quickly going to do a crimp and then fold it closed. Okay. So now the end is done. and it looks just like that. I made it a little longer than I was intending to, but kind of working under the iPad here a little bit. Let's trim it. I did trim right next to the crimps in both cases, so go right up next to it. And the same here on this side. And what you'll find when you're getting to this end, you might be wondering, oh, hey, why didn't you just like come out and go through a crimp? Well, the trick I had to get around and what got me stuck with doing it this way, and it looks a lot better on the starting side there, but the reason I like this method is when you're trying to get the crimping pliers up against a bead to crimp, it's really, really hard to do. You end up flat crimping, which is not good for the beading wire. So I decided get it away from the bead, get a little bit of motion there. And if you're using a pretty color, like for example, how cool would that look? And then it, as a bonus, gives you extra length. And so that in a nutshell is the two assembly methods. You can stitch it, you can beading wire it. Both of them are wins. Both of them come out really cute. Let me bring them all back so you can see. It's this one, and this one just needs its end put on it. So here's our stitched versions and our wire versions. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this class. Let me show you real quick on the mat the next week's class, and or I'll hold it up here actually. That's good too. So you can see how big these earrings are. So next week is wire. If you like wire, I was in a mood to do some wire wrapping, and so I made these, and I got requests for class, so I decided to do them as a class. Because I guess it's not super unusual. I've done it before, but wire wrapping with seed beads, I guess, is kind of I'm sure lots of people have done it, but I guess it was new to some folks, and they were like, I want to see that. So I thought, hey, we'll do that as a class because it's seed beading, and even though it's wire, we can still call it seed beading, right? So yeah, it came out really cute. They look amazing on. I've been wearing them. I even made my own ear wires. I'm going to show you that as a bonus for that class, and that is next. I believe it's next Friday. Yeah, I can't tell you the date off the top of my head because I didn't calendar before. I should have. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys then. And I want to wish you a great weekend, and thank you for being here with us today. Happy Friday, happy weekend, happy beading.